Neil? What's taking you so long? This place is falling apart. There's no time to wait for him. Connect Colin's life. It has to be the same thing, right? Is it the airplane then? The cello. I think that's all of them, but... Oh, what the? Something's falling. No, look out! Airplane save? Was that a... What is this place? Is this Colin? Or is it Faye that's doing this? His memories, they're falling apart. Maybe this is the truth. Call them. But when you go through the procedure and live that new life, just hold on to something from here. It's not like that, Fia. I won't forget about you. Is he actually gonna forget about his family? Whoa, that'd be really sad. But in the blink of an eye, suddenly there's no more time. And I find myself here, just like everyone else. I just want to feel like I've done enough in this world before I go, you know? That's why we're here, Colin. Tell us your regrets. What is it that you want us to fix? Ooh, jellyfish. We only have so much time in this life, and we'd never be able to do all that we want. No matter what we do, there'd always be other things we'd want to try, other paths to take. La, la, la. Did it spill on your dress? Hey, just one more excuse to jump into the lagoon. You know, we don't have to waste all that lemon juice. Oh, she knows. Have you ever tried writing with it? Lemon juice? No, why? Huh, then prepare to be mind-blown by some elementary school magic. Get this, it's invisible ink. Invisible ink? Yep, the writing appears in color only when you heat the paper up. Come on, I'll show you. Let's write something with it. It's been a while since I've written. Well, never too late to start again. How about a letter? To who? Each other, of course. We could write about this trip. It's been kind of a journey, hasn't it? And at the end of it, we could show each other what we wrote of it all. Why was this not part of that memory earlier? Why indeed? She knows then. Maybe she doesn't want to know what's in the book. Why would you even consider? Why would you toss aside everything we have for something make-believe? I'm not tossing anything aside. We all have regrets, be it righting a wrong or a dream long past. At Sigmund Corp, we give you that second chance to make things right, because with our help, it's never too late. Wait, these don't seem like just randomly scattered memories. Could it be that the sedative's wearing off? You are different, even from the man you were when I first met you. You're no longer aloof, you know? When you're here, you're actually here. This is a real memory, isn't it? I know it's mesmerizing here, Faye spoke after a pause, shifting her gaze back up to the sky. But you've been spending so much time with me and imagining what couldn't be. Don't you think you're forgetting what actually is and all that could be? Okay, look, I got it. I got your message, you hear me? I know you're still here. You can come and get me now. Damn it, I really thought it was her. Wait. Is that really the only way to... I guess he doesn't like the cloud. Ow. Where the hay have you been? I figured it out, Eva. I figured out the impossible. I mean, it took an unholy amount of spoon feeding, but I guess that's what it takes when we're on the inside of it. What are you talking about? Yes. Just what are you talking about? The sedative. We're off already? You don't sound too happy about it. We're here to help Colin, and you're the mental process that's in the way. Well, lucky for you, that can be amended now, can't it? So, looks like we're about out of time. If you're going to erase me for good, you might as well hurry. No, we're not going to erase you. We're going to erase us. Wait, what? Colin never needed our service, Eva. He already had her. The ability to change his reality, to live in a different world? One that filled the gaps of what he wanted, all in his head. She is what we do, Eva. And yet, she left. She left, which could have only meant one thing. What you're trying to imply... No, that can't be right. What we do is different from just this. How is it different? Because there's more to it. There's more to what we do. We fulfill wishes. We give meaning to people's lives. What we do, it has to be more than just that of an imaginary friend. It's a lot more elaborate for sure. But for someone who had to fight just to let go of fantasy and embrace reality, maybe our existence was merely an unwelcomed amplifier. A reminder of the make-believe, the imaginary, and the endless possibilities that make reality seem less than what it is. Hey, you two. Things are looking good with the patient. I don't know what you're up to, but you might want to get out of there. And by might wanna, I mean need to. After all that, huh? I guess none of this even matters anymore. There's no way we'd still have the time to implement any actual changes. No, we might not have the time. But what about her? She's already linked to the machine's interface, right? Without us, all procedures would be internalized. So much could be done in a fraction of a moment. You're suggesting giving sole control of the machine to a mental process of the patient? The ethical implications of that, it hasn't been done for good reasons. It hasn't been done because no patient has had a chance like this. Besides, what's our alternative? Just leave and mark this as a write-off? But what about legal complications? In the contract, it says... Oh, come on, Eva. When has the contract stopped us? Guys? Go on. I'll be right behind. Don't say I never trust you. Why are you doing this for us? Well, if I were Colin and on my last breath, I trust you over two strangers in white coats, right? Strangers, huh? Your colleague was right about one thing. There is more to what you do than just playing God with people's memories. You've been here for just a day, yet... in all of his lifetime, no one else has truly seen the world through his eyes like you have. And well, you're kind of the first I've been able to meet too. In some silly way, maybe that's a part of what Colin really wished for. It was one heck of a meet and greet, that's for sure. Full admin access transfer to unknown credential? Faye. You gonna be alright? Just a little nervous, I guess. Well, given the circumstances, I'd say that's pretty alright. Hey. Do you think that in some ways I've truly existed? Well, for what it's worth, I think all our memories and everything in it can be nothing but the fiction we tell ourselves. Good luck out here. Colin's counting on you. His blood pressure is dropping. Vital signs are fading fast. I think he's letting go. I'm sorry for your loss. Please take all the time you need. I'll be in the living room with the paperwork. When they're ready, I'll let them know. Always a little stark, isn't it? Seeing it like this, after just having been in there. It is what it is. I'm just a little cold. It feels warmer in there. What we did back there, do you know if it worked? Hard to say. I'll try to dig through the data afterward, but... well, it's never been done like this before. I don't know how coherent it'd be. Guess we got another mess of a report to write. We can take care of that when the dust settles. In the meantime, I just remembered something. So, did you succeed? There was a complication. We tried to cope with something unorthodox, but I'm not sure if we'll ever know what really happened in those last moments. Hey, Sophia said you got a lighter? Yeah? Is she actually gonna do it? I would have thought she would have said, I don't want to see it, it's okay. But I guess for our sake as well. Oh, the book is what he wants. The book is Faye helping him. So that's how we know what happened, I guess. Indirectly.
I never stood up very tall. I think my voice was fairly small. But there were times I'd want to shout, though my thoughts weren't sorted out. So I'd stumble and I'd fall. I learned to fly because of you. So if you left, I could go too. And everything you saw in me, that's what I wanted to be. Did I make it after all? All the grass on the other side. Is it only greener in my mind? I'd still want it the same, because trading my yesterday is to wish my life away. As we dream and as we grow, we have to learn to let things go. But let the wonder never fade, though we've turned 10,000 pages, flying high or stuck below. I've searched for meaning amidst doubt. I finally figured that part out. And all the stories inside me feels like I'm bursting at the seams. And you're here after
Looking for something, old-timer? She didn't age. It's been a while, huh? A long while. You haven't changed much. And whose fault is that now? Listen, I wish it were under better circumstances, but I know. I wish I still had time to tell you about all that's happened since then. It's okay. I was there. I'm only here to say goodbye. Just tell me one thing, though. Do you still have any regrets? Regrets? Yeah, I have a lot of those. But that's okay. The chances I missed, the mishaps, and all that I wish I had, well, they were all still a part of it. They made way for all that I do have. And what I do have, I wouldn't trade for anything else in the world. That's all I wish to hear. Go on. They're waiting for you. It's time to go home. Hey, Colin. Sorry I had to leave back then. Thank you for having been there, even when nobody else was. Wow, what a story. What's up? Where are you? At my scotch, drinking home. You said you'd be here. I said I'd visit like we always do, not attend the funeral. When was the last time I even did that? I know, but I just thought we owe it to him after... Dr. Rosaline, we're about to start. Go on. I'll get my turn. Alright, enjoy your scotch. You know it. Now, where were we? Oh, not looking sketchy at all, Neil. I asked you to knock, not hack my lock. Switching to digital was a terrible idea. Why didn't you just keep both locks on? Dagnabbit, Rob. I don't know why she even got you involved. Look, we don't have long. Are you guys still in or not? You betcha. So, is that the solution you were talking about? Yeah, that's her. Oh. Oh. What's happening next? Wait a second. Whoa, 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 whoa. That is insane. Holy crap. What's gonna happen in the future? I guess I'll do my closing statements once I have a little time to think. Support Reeves. Do it. Okay, so closing statement time. This is just going to be a reflection, just going to reiterate and talk about some things related to the game. It's not a review, just so you know, but there may still be some critical analysis and similar things where applicable, but I'll try not to do that. I'll try not to go on for too long, but that usually fails as well, especially since I've got some really crazy notes written here, crazy topics written down. Oh, this is going to be a crazy one. Crazy, crazy, crazy. Alright, so yeah, that was quite the adventure, wasn't it? Finding Paradise. I think Reeves makes some of the best RPG Maker adventure games out there. It's such a volatile genre with stigma attached to it. There's so many things about it that's just perceived as negative. The medium itself, I mean. Yet for some reason, he's always able to make these beautiful games. I mean, he's only made 2 main episodes for this series. Some of his older stuff is really kind of questionable, but, you know, we can't deny the success of To the Moon and Finding Paradise and everything in between. They're excellent games. So normally I would talk about different aspects of the game, like art, music, and whatnot. The art and music are great, yay, there we go. But I want to focus on more deeper topics as well. And this is why I think it's kind of dangerous. Hopefully... You know what? I say hopefully? No. There's probably going to be some crazy analysis, to be honest. Some of these topics are just ridiculous. But yeah, back to the different aspects of the game. Art, music, gameplay, and then story. Those are usually the 4 that I look at, primarily. I'm not going to look at 3 of them. I'm just going to look at it in terms of story. And I mean, some of the gameplay aspects will probably tie in as well, just because of this medium. And yeah, because this is a novel-like experience, I do want to treat it as such. So let me preface all of this with a quote. And this is probably where we get into that can of worms territory, where the worms fly out like crazy. The medium is the message. This is a phrase by a contemporary philosopher named Marshall McLuhan. I say it's a contemporary, but he's actually not alive anymore. 20th century, I guess. I mean, I guess contemporary can also be perceived that way. He did stuff for like media and communication studies, stuff like that. Check him out if you think that's interesting. But this quote, "The medium is the message," basically it means that the medium itself is more important and it tells you more than the content. The content here being the story, but the medium frames the story and allows it to thrive, essentially. I think RPG Maker games done this way, done the way that Reeves does it, is a pretty accurate representation of this idea. Reeves could have used a more traditional form of media, like a novel, a physical novel, text or graphic-based novel. Could have done that to tell the story, but he chose this one. And maybe it's because he's more comfortable with it, as in he felt like it was appropriate to use, but maybe there's more to that. We'll never know unless we actually ask him and pick his brain about it, assuming that he'd even give us a concrete answer. I mean, he probably would try, but does he himself know fully why he was gravitated toward this medium? The point is, we have this story told in this format, and the information that the story gives the player, we obtain it through the medium because the medium allows us to perceive the story in such a way that makes it compelling. And what I mean is the framing mechanic used. Holy crap, this is like seriously analysis territory. I can't help it, sorry. Yeah, I might as well finish this thought then, right? Basically, we, the player, experience the story through a machine, or computers, whatever we're using, about two doctors who are experiencing a story about a man and his memories of his past using a machine. And the memories themselves are being told in a story format based on the man's imagination. Jeez. That's the amount of ridiculous framing and meta level of this story. But like in regards to the RPG Maker format, this is a highly interactive medium that allows the player to interact. I'm saying interact too much. I'm going to say it a lot more. Interact within the confines of the story world in a meaningful way. There we go. And again, this is how Reeves uses it. Other people use RPG Maker differently. The fact that we can visually see and interact using the in-game avatars, the two doctors, essentially they're the representation of our existence within the game. And this allows us to interact more closely and become more involved with the story. And at the same time, the characters within the story are doing the same thing. Like the whole premise of this game and the series is that they're able to go into the minds of people and their minds essentially tell a story that the characters can interact with. It's really, really meta. But that's why it's so cool. So what's my point? The fact that the story is done this way is also the reason why we have the story at all. The medium is the message and whatnot. The entire story. Not just what happens, as in like as we progress, what happens to the characters and what happens inside the world, but also the bits of information that you may overlook, especially if you do like a really rushed, quick playthrough. But even then, a lot of the information you can probably discern from just, being there. Like your existence is already enough to give you information, due to the fact that the memories are just that. They're memories. And they're information that is related to Colin. So that in itself tells us their inclusion, the inclusion of that information is telling us something about Colin, which is developing the character in some way. You see? The medium doing the work for us. And here's another quote similar to this idea. It's kind of like a mantra for writers, or like just something that writers need to consider. Lack of information is also information. So what this means is sometimes when a character, or in this story, certain memories, when they fail to present us information, we become suspicious. And the fact that we're navigating through a character's mind means that this information could be deliberately obscured from us. I mean, this entire idea, I could probably go on forever and ever talking about it because it's just so interesting. But I'll use some key examples in my notes instead. Jeez, this is so long-winded and convoluted. Just the way I like it, yay. So, simply put, I like the way it's done, because this promotes player interaction to a much greater degree than other types of games. If you compare this with true visual novels, where it has a picture, like this picture here, and then it has text. Basically, the way you progress the story is you press a button and then the text scrolls. That's it. That's what a true visual novel is. It's only as interactive as the writer or the designers allow it to be. There's no free roaming to learn about certain aspects of the world. There's very few parts of the story that are described with visuals, like graphic visuals, as opposed to text visuals. As opposed to this game, which does both. So we're getting more information like that. And also, the fact that Colin's memory preserved all this information tells us that this information is relevant to him in some way. All of this is like world building, character building, and development. And sometimes they even serve as teasers or foreshadowing. Like the flight instructor, the first time you meet him and he's at the vending machine being a moron, he's not a shadowy figure. Even though we're already used to it by that point, we know that the characters, almost every single character in the memories, they're just shadowy figures because it represents Colin not fully being able to remember them. Like, they were there, but they don't matter. But for some reason, his flight instructor was not a shadowy figure. Whether this means that, he remembers him clearly, or he retroactively remembers him more clearly than he did, despite, they haven't even met yet at that point, in that first memory. So that's probably, I assume that's probably what it is. Or maybe it's just that the story or Colin's mind wanted to subtly hint at the importance of the character. Foreshadowing. Whatever it may be. We don't know what it is. We can just interpret it. But those are some options. There are so many different ways to approach things that are presented in this game. And especially Faye, when we got the big reveal about Faye, it was so insane the way he did it. We started noticing her behavior changing. So she would be able to move while other characters froze. And at one point, the biggest reveal, the biggest epiphany, like holy crap, was the fact that she dodged the player character instead of phasing through them. And every NPC, when you're inside the machine, because they're memories, right? They're a figment of his imagination, part of his memory, part of the past. They don't really exist. So they can just phase through you, because you don't really exist in their world. And yet, ironically, this imaginary friend does exist in this imaginary world. And we can physically interact with her. Even though an imaginary friend is traditionally supposed to embody all of those aspects, being something that isn't real. It's beautifully done. Really, really beautifully done. Just all that, the entire scenario. Now, I mean, I'm praising him a lot. I'm praising Reeves a lot, but he's not perfect. He's not a perfect writer. Nobody is. And he obviously has issues with some aspects of writing, like voice issues, overusing references at times, and I think even some of the pacing and the flow in terms of game design is a little bit disjointed at times. But despite that, I still can't stop praising him because he's really good at executing the right way to tell the story, utilizing RPG Maker and using the medium to further support that. He's a really good manipulator of the medium, and that is definitely praiseworthy. It's really impressive. And as a writer myself, and someone who is constantly dissatisfied with my own work and just stuff in general, I always want to improve. Everything's a learning experience and all that. That's my motto. I'm usually highly critical of writers, their stories, and the reason for that is because, I want to see a well-refined, as close to perfect as possible, at least in modern perception. Obviously, over time, things improve. that level of storytelling is what I want to see, and I think Reeves comes very close to that with To the Moon and Finding Paradise especially. There is one thing I will mention though related to his writing style, or I guess his storytelling style. I do find it kind of irritating the way he does it, but this is just a personal preference. It's an acceptable style for sure, and I guess because I have it written down, obviously. I'll just throw in another quote here, an expression. Humor is the opposite of sadness, and the only difference between laughter and crying is the flip of a coin. That's what I wrote down. It's poetic, right? We cry when we're happy and sad. We laugh when we're happy and sad. Like, really, there really isn't much else we can do, right? And we often say things like, we've got to laugh it off if we're upset or distressed. And, we can't just sit there feeling sorry for ourselves and indulging that sadness. We can just, look past it, look up and face it head on and continue onwards. And I think this storytelling style that he uses is basically that. There's so much inappropriate humor. And I don't mean like black humor or dark humor specifically. He doesn't do that often, if at all. There's probably like one moment in this entire game that kind of does that. He uses this inappropriate humor to drive his stories emotionally. And even he knows this. The tagline for his website is something like ruining precious moments, one bad joke at a time. I think that's what it is. Basically, this is his way of emotionally pulling us apart while we're experiencing the story. It's just one of the ways that we can experience both the highs and lows of the story as well as the characters within it. Yeah, it's distracting and irritating at times, and he uses Neil to basically embody this concept. And Neil is insufferable sometimes. Just can't stand him sometimes. But we love to hate him when he does stupid jokes and ridiculous moments. That's just the complexity of the character. That's just what he does. He's the funny man in the comedy duo. Or is it the tragedy duo? Oh. Okay, I gotta stop myself there. This is going on for way too long. It sounds way too much like critical analysis of like narrative and style and character instead of being a reflection of the game. But what do I want going forward? Really, there's a lot to say about this, but I'm just gonna read off my notes. Aside from more games, we want to know what's up with Neil, right? The whole pill thing. It's been a recurring subplot since the first game, To the Moon. Whether it's a heart issue or maybe it's related to the machine, like he doesn't react well with the machine and it causes him some kind of physical strain or harm. We still don't know what it is. And now we just got another mystery in this game, right? We got the mystery of the machine. We don't know what's up with that either. He altered the machine, and then in the post-credits scene, it looked like there was some kind of projection of Faye in the machine, or I assume it's some kind of program that simulates Faye or an imaginary friend. Because at the final scene inside of Colin, they basically said, yeah, like Faye does what we do, right? Faye grants the wishes of the people who need it. So what's going on with that? I wonder what's going to happen there. Roxy and Rob are involved as well. They seem to be on board with the idea of doing this, whatever they're doing. Sigmund Corp is on the receiving end of a lot of criticism. There's a lot of social stigma involved with what they do. Like, who are they to play God with people's memories? And after this point, will they go out of business? And will this cause some kind of conflict between Neil and Eva? Neil is like the rebel, and Eva is more like the obedient, by the books kind of person. She's really proper. What's gonna happen? Will we get Rudog plushies that fire nose lasers? Only time will tell. That was a horrible thing I wrote down. I can't believe I wrote that. Terrible joke. I mean, as an aside, like these subplots are not really that important to the story, right? And not really, anyway. But as we become more invested in the characters and this world, they become more important to us. and possibly they'll become part of the main story in the future. But, you know, we can only speculate at this point, right? Alright, aside from that, I'm still not sure if I want to do this. Outside of all of that, this game was one that I emotionally related with more so than almost every game, any game out there. A lot of people say stuff like, oh, you know, I relate so much with the game and the characters and all that. And I really don't like that mentality, but it seems like my time has come. Not really, only kind of, but I guess as I talk about it, you'll see. I'm not a person who likes to use emotion as an indicator of worth, whether or not something is good or worthwhile or whatever. I don't like that. In fact, it's usually the opposite. And I really hope I didn't give off the impression that, you know, because I mentioned the strong usage of emotional appeal in this game and in Rakuen, I hope I didn't give off the impression that that's the kind of person that I was. It's not. I don't like emotions. They're irrational, but they can be beautiful. So with that being said, and also because, you know, I usually don't talk about myself that much. Aside from being a content creator, the YouTube stream writing aspect of myself, that's basically all I talk about, because that's all that people really need to know. But I feel like I should at least mention this a little bit. Maybe. This is a story that I can relate to more closely, because growing up, and even now, I feel like I'm very much like Colin. I mean, he's a really boring, mundane person that many people can relate to, but I feel like there were a lot of parallels that I couldn't really ignore. Like, being a very introverted person. I'm a very introverted person. I wear masks all day, depending on what I'm doing. And hardly anyone really knows me. Whether I'm at home or with my family, at work, whatever, you know, I wear different masks. Even now, I'm talking to a screen right now. And what is this? This is Ventus, I guess. That's the persona that is currently being displayed, although the mask's kind of shifting a bit. But similar to Colin, growing up, I was basically always alone. No friends, distant family, usually emotionally rather than physically, but, you know, it just felt like there was a rift, right? And unfortunately, or fortunately, I didn't have a fae. I just read books and played games all day, and aside from that, like, the only imaginary things that I did was kind of similar to the books and games that I played. I would create these imaginary scenarios with things that I had. Pens and pencils, highlighter pens I really liked. I thought those were really cool. Oh man, I was such a stupid kid. Little figurines, collectible cards, badges, and, like, I forgot what they were called. Caps? I don't know what it is. It's not like bottle caps. It's something else. And, like, shells, like leaves, these kinds of things, these physical objects. Jeez, this sounds so ridiculous, doesn't it? They were characters to me. And I've only told like 2 people ever about this in my entire life. And now I'm telling you. The whole, like, 1 or 2 people, or possibly no one who reaches this point in the video. But I guess this is why I've always enjoyed manipulating fictional characters and creating fictional worlds. Because it was one of my precious childhood moments growing up. And, you know, I used those characters, the pens and pencils and other weird stuff, to tell stories about them to myself. I would imagine things, like what they would do and what kind of character they were, even though they were physically not the same thing. And sometimes I even put them within the same story world. And this was something that I was fascinated by. And to some extent, I guess this was my fae. But growing up, I kind of discarded that. And as I grew up, even now I should say, like, I don't have any friends. Not true friends anyway. The ones that I can relate to, but not just that, the ones that can accept me for everything that I am, doesn't exist. might as well be imaginary friends. Family is now physically distant as well as emotionally. Beliefs and all that stuff. Now more than ever, because back when I was a kid, it didn't really matter as much. You just kind of do what they do. But when you grow up, that changes. You know, it's just people are very different as they grow up, and I just don't get along with people, I guess. Unlike Colin, I mean, I can still function. It's not like I don't get along with everyone. I can still function. But, I didn't have Faye. I didn't have a way to cope with this. Faye didn't grow up with me because the stories and the characters that I made up, they were left behind as I grew up. Even my own confidence in telling stories isn't as strong as it used to be. Even though I've studied stuff for many years, I lack the confidence to truly try to publish something, which I probably should do at some point. So I don't think it's. I've seen stuff that's significantly worse than what I assume would be decent at least. But confidence is the problem, right? The most depressing thing I think is I feel like it's unlikely that I'm ever going to meet my Sophia, because I don't interact with people outside of work and stuff, like stuff I do online. I mean, it's still possible, but it's very unlikely. And, it's really sad and depressing, but I do know other people as well that are living lives like this too. And it's just something that some people nowadays just deal with. And the thing is, in kind of a weird way, I'm happy with this because it's the way I want to live. It's the way I live. Things could be better, but they could be worse, of course. So I just take what I can. And one of the things that Faye said in the game was pretty interesting. At the moment when she was saying goodbye, she's like, instead of imagining what could be, just live life with confidence or something like that. I don't know the exact. I can't remember the exact quote. Something like that. Live in reality is basically what she said. And to some extent, I feel like it's a little bit too idealistic for me. It's hard for me to grasp. And that was kind of upsetting. A really wide range of emotions when that scene happened. Because I don't have anything like that to push me or guide me forward. I don't have Faye or some kind of inspiration. I don't have... I hate this word. Acknowledgement? Someone that acknowledges what you're doing and appreciates what you're doing. Aside from... I maybe it's my fault. It probably is my fault. But when people praise me, I can't accept it. So that's probably something too. I can always be better. That's just my mentality. Life is a learning experience. All the mistakes you make and all that, you learn from them and you improve yourself. That's the goal of life, essentially. It's an ongoing goal. But yeah, I really had trouble taking that because it doesn't really exist for me as much as I would like it to. Maybe at some point it will. Maybe it will, maybe it won't. I don't know yet. Only time will tell. So what is the point of saying all this? It's not that I want your pity. I don't want you to feel sorry for me or anything like that. It's just, I just wanted to share the story about myself and how this game and I are related in some way. It just happens to be a really lame and depressing story, that's all. But yeah, that's basically it. One day I hope I can meet my Sophia, whoever that is. Whatever that is? It's probably whoever that is. But, I'm just really bad at entertaining relationships, and probably even worse at nurturing them over time. But, there's still time for me to do all that. Nothing I can do really but to continue doing what I feel is right, I guess. And, the moral of the story, the moral of this story, not my story, the moral of this story is, even though you have regrets, in the end, you can still be happy, right? So why not just live your life the way you want to and do what you want? This is not the first story that had that message, but this is definitely one of my favorite stories that does. Alright. We should probably end this now. It's gone on for way too long. I always feel like there's something obvious that I forgot to mention among the endless possibilities of stuff that I could have said. But then again, I'd be here for like 10 hours and be editing for even longer than that. So let's not do that. It's better if I just end it here now. Got a bunch of stuff related to the game, some analysis, some stuff related to me. It's good enough. If I did forget anything, let me know. Or something like that. If you're still here. Because technically I'm still alone here. Ah, the medium is the message. What is the medium? A YouTube video, a recording. But yeah, 2017. You know, this year was amazing for games from start to finish. Just overall, really, really good games. And I think Finding Paradise is a really great way to end off the year. And I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. Assuming you're still here to listen, that is. Hopefully we won't have to wait half a decade for the next entry to the series, the next episode. But even if we do have to wait, I mean, every single year is going to produce more games that are amazing. And games really are amazing, right? Good way to escape and also to experience things. Cool fictional worlds that people write about and let others experience. It's very beautiful. But yeah, that'll be it then. I'm Ventus. This was Finding Paradise by Freebird Games, also known as Kan Reeves Gao, the main writer, among other people, of course, that you saw in the credits. They helped make this a reality, and it's kind of ironic, isn't it? And you should support them. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you next time.